Well said. It's up and going. Hey, now I can see Michael and Sonia
Hey, folks. And Leah, too.
and yeah. This is good because I can sit
Hi,
down.
folks.
I don't know how I could sit through a meeting. I'll just stand.
That seems great, Malcolm. Yeah.
Whatever you got going.
Nice to see you all this evening.
Yes, on this very chilly evening. I know that everybody is making preparations for the possible upcoming storm. Definitely was a good number of people at Hannaford's earlier.
Yeah, I was wondering how all the mobile home parks made it through that what for some people was a 6-day outage right before Christmas.
Yeah, there were some folks who were on, I think their 11th day at one point. It was a long time on some of the the outer reaches of certain places. I'm hoping that Mother Nature will be relatively kind to folks this time around.
So, in terms of who I've heard from about their attendance or non-attendance tonight, I know Danielle has a sort of family emergency and so is not able to be with us. Thank you, Michael, for jumping in and facilitating in her stead. I believe that Carlos is probably out of the country on break. I think his plan was to go home for the break, so I'm not expecting him. And I also heard from Lori Carpenter that she's unable to make the meeting, although I believe Jeff Lowe was planning to come, so I'm not sure if he's in council chambers or not, but he may show up. And that's all that I've heard from. Has anyone else heard from other folks? I think maybe just Gabriel is who we would be expecting or not, and perhaps we can begin.
Don't have any word personally. Do we want to wait a few minutes for him, or
I think we should go ahead and get started.
Sure. Do we want to give some quick introductions for anybody who is joining us that is not familiar?
Do we have, let me see. It doesn't look like there's anyone joining us on Zoom, and so if there's nobody except Councilor Demerit in council chambers, who I think is up to speed, we can maybe skip over intros tonight.
Sure. Oh, so there's somebody off to the side, I think. All right. Pardon?
Chief Lau is here.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
great. Hi, Chief.
Hello. All right. So we did a bunch of really awesome stuff last time, so give you guys a little bit of a recap. We followed up on some of the signage recommendations, and we actually ended up fully approving and going through with the document that Malcolm so kindly provided, and the committee ultimately approved the document with, I believe, some very minor changes. And there was a lot of support for creating an additional summary of the issue. And we're still kind of weighing in on what we want to do for that, as there's quite a bit of it's a bit of a commitment that we haven't been able to distribute across at the moment. Um, we followed up on some listening session ideas, and I know that one of our members took a step back, and Malcolm had been kind of peering in on that as well. I'm not sure if there was any additional updates there. Um, our our member Gabriel was talking about plans for the Wabanaki Winter Celebration that partnered with the town council at the January potluck. Um, did anybody get a chance to go? I personally didn't get a chance to go.
I
Sonia
got
or
I got a
Malcolm, would
chance
you
to
guys?
go. Despite it being a snowy evening this Sunday, there were 90 something people who made it out to that event, and it was
That is awesome.
really celebrative and wonderful. I believe Malcolm was there too. Anything else you want to say, Malcolm?
Yeah, with this being the fourth potluck that the town has done, I've just seen it grow and grow and grow. And each one has been wonderful, and the cumulative effect is wonderful. You know, families, all ages, just people, kind of, I've heard people say, well, I live here, but I wasn't quite sure how to plug in to this community or how to make community. And they just bring themselves out to this potluck and they meet others. And the different cultural things that have been lifted up each and every month having a theme so far, just wonderful.
Yeah, honestly, I'm sad that I didn't get a chance to make it, but it sounds like it was an absolutely wicked event, and so I am so glad that this event has been growing and growing. I think that honestly, as a community resource, this potluck is such a valuable resource because it really gets to touch on those people who do say like, "Oh, I'm not sure how to connect, but I live here," and I think that's such a great opportunity. Next on our list, Danielle, who unfortunately does have to step away from the meeting today, is had discussed a lot of really brilliant ideas for a Black History literacy event that would involve so many amazing corners of creativity and highlighting things like writers and artists and musicians. And we're definitely kind of looking into some outreach to talk to folks within humane organizations and the RSU, and we're really looking to make kind of a big celebrative um, event. And I know that there'll be kind of more on that, so you can give some words on that if you have any updates.
Yeah, I don't have too much, so I think I'd propose that we sort of make a mental note to add this to the agenda for next time when hopefully Danielle can be with us. And
Yes.
we had talked last time about not setting a date and like making an action plan for it yet, but instead really it's sort of looking to build something that's pretty big and collaborative. So I think it's okay that it's not on a firm timeline and that we don't
I
need to
agree.
take action on it tonight. One thing that's tangentially related is last meeting we also were talking about um, kind of connecting with the library as a resource. And the library did come to Sunday's potluck and had a set of books that were related to Wabanaki culture on display, which was a really nice synergy. So
Yeah, I know Danielle was
glad that
incredibly
that
excited
piece
to
of the
connect with
literacy
them.
planning conversation did circle around already. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that I love the Orono library myself, and I think that it's it's great to be able to connect it to as many things as we can. We checked in with the town staff on their DEIB report. Lori was kind enough to share that there have been some DEIB staff trainings with Dustin Ward and It Is Time LLC, and and there's been word that everyone is really enjoying them and that they're really good resources, and there's been a lot of inclusion of both new employees and something that they're instilling with employees who are already with the town. And they're also looking at new things to implement into the DEIB training, and there's more agendas coming up. So that is a quick recap of what we got going. Um, let's get, so I think that do we have a grand conclusion for the kind of this segment of the signage recommendations? Sonia, I know that you are very kindly a member of the town council, and I know that the recommendations got accepted. Is there any additional contents that you can provide to this?
Sure. So, quick update on where that process is the town council did vote unanimously to send an apology letter to the Penobscot Nation, informed in part by the recommendations that this committee sent in. So that has been kind of signed and is, I think, en route to them now. And also, Council Member Demerit, who is present in council chambers at present, thought that it might be a good idea for the town council to formally adopt the DEIB committee's recommendations about the signage and then charge you all with holding us accountable as specified in the recommendations. And so, Dan, is there anything else you want to say about that, or is that a reasonable summary of where we are with that?
We had a very good conversation about the recommendations from the DEIB committee, and they were very helpful in the council's deliberation around the letter. At the, I think it's the 1 hour and 11-minute mark of our December 19th meeting. I'm trying to start like timestamping these things, write them down for just a track. We talked about whether in adopting the letter, approving the apology letter, we should also amend the resolution, the order, to include adopting the DEIB committee recommendations. And it was determined that we'd have that discussion. That was a discussion for another meeting at another time. Well, we have more things coming up at more time. So I was thinking, if this committee is interested in following through with that and seeing those recommendations endorsed by the council as an order, and being a partner in helping us kind of maintain tracking and maintaining accountability, because I think that's frankly a lot of what happened in the science process, is just sort of the tracking and reporting back and making sure loops were closed, ships were managed with the care that they need to be collaborative. So that was my thinking, and if so, I think we could have a committee meeting on it sometime later this month, maybe early February, and then either in our February meeting or our March meeting, put it on the council agenda as an order for the council to adopt these recommendations by vote. Thank you.
I love that. Honestly, I'm so excited to be able to kind of, I think that one of the really important pieces of um, organizations, governmental organizations, town organizations from micro to macro scales, I think that it's so important that we always have this kind of realm of accountability that we can hold on to. And I think that not only does that feel like the town council holding themselves accountable, but also offering to have someone check their own accountability. And I think that that really does provide a very positive gesture. So I definitely think that we'd love to hear updates when that comes into when that crosses the town council's desk. I definitely think that turning our recommendations into an order would be a nice solidification into next steps.
Can I ask a question about the letter really quickly?
Of course.
How is it being delivered? Like who will
Thanks.
deliver it? How is it being delivered? Are we expecting a response?
Thanks for that question. My understanding is that it is getting like scanned in and sent via email, and then also being sent as duplicate via hard copy US Postal Service, so that there's like a hard copy that feels really official, but also it's hopefully not yet, it's going to get there through one modality or another, whichever is more convenient. That's Dan, does that match your understanding?
Yeah, we started last night, and Sean Guard wasn't with us from we had an issue. Like I don't want to characterize he wasn't with us last night. So so he was the only one who was able to sign it last night. But we signed copies of the letter, and the town manager is going to scan them and email them to the contacts, and also send them by the United States.
Yeah. And so it sort of states as part of the letter that we would welcome the town council would welcome the opportunity to go in person and kind of meet and deliver that apology in person as well. And so we are we'll wait to see if we're invited to do so, but that would certainly be the hope.
Yeah, that's definitely
Thank
that
you.
was definitely one of my concerns, was kind of having like a human contact, for because obviously like everybody can read something on a page, but tone and interpretation I feel like are very important pieces when it comes to especially an apology. Awesome. Well, we will eagerly await updates on that.
Before we move on from this topic, I'm just curious
Sure.
to hear from Malcolm and Leah whether both of you support or have neutral feelings or don't support the idea of council sort of issuing an order that is this group's recommendations and codifying them in that way.
Really interested in what we can do to enact our part of that, so that when they say, this whole thing may be like a case in point, like, so there was, tonight is like a check-in, we are witnessing it. There's a question.
I think it's a participant has closed captioning. Keep going.
All right, so there's a December 19th update. We heard that tonight from Councilor Demerit. There was a January 8th update. We heard that tonight from Sonia. We've heard the parts that moved forward. Where would we document those is where I'm going. And also we heard, oh, there's one piece that was like a suggestion but not an action in December. So that was a thing we might want to move forward. So where do we like store that to pick up with it? And if we can model an answer, how we keep track to provide that accountability and traction. If we model that with what you've got for us, Michael, and the beginning logbook idea, if we can do that, then I'll feel good about saying to council, yes, please run with those recommendations. We will be your accountability partner. That's my.
I think my, oh, go ahead, Malcolm.
Over to you, Leah.
Okay. My thoughts are echoing Malcolm's. I am just very curious about what accountability looks like beyond just tracking, because to me, tracking is not accountability. So I think that there might need to be a conversation, a continued conversation moving forward with the council about what exactly are they looking for in particular with this accountability piece. And because to me, accountability means that the committee, the DEIB committee, has some kind of power, and that there's some kind of consequence if the council doesn't follow through with their with the recommendations that they're codifying. So I think that all of those things, I support the idea of the recommendations being codified in some way. I also think we need to be really thoughtful in terms of what that means for on the members part of the committee and also on the council's part.
I love that, Leah. Yeah, way to sort of think through the fact that structurally there isn't a mechanism for that.
Yeah, I think that that was kind of a question that was rattling around in my own mind, and I think that Leah could not have put it better. Um, I feel like honestly, there I do agree because I think that tracking just sort of tracking does provide documentation, but it's also kind of if they're doing their own documentation, then kind of the idea of tracking just sort of adds work that we have to do, but that maybe not like just adding extra work to us doesn't necessarily mean that we have, like you said, a mechanism for accountability. Like, what are we looking for? What are we holding them to? What are the standards that we hope to hold, and how do we hold them? I think that
But
that's a
the
discussion.
tracking part is definitely simpler, and we already have a proposed mechanism to do some of that. And so maybe it does make sense to kind of, as Malcolm suggested, look at that, think about if this group of volunteer folks is has the capacity and organization to be the ones who are really sort of keeping track of this, and then just serving as a mechanism to make sure that council members don't forget and drop the ball out of not having enough brain space is a real service to making sure that we're communicating and upholding our relationships with the folks with whom the town liaises. So I think there's real value to that.
I would definitely be interested in seeing what the town council would like to outline as its standards. Like, obviously, we do have like specific actions and things like that, but I wonder what specific standards that we're looking for. Where, like, are we documenting every meeting in writing? Are we documenting every, or are we publicizing, making sure that we're paying liaisons and consults appropriately? Like, are we publicizing those payments? Like, I'd be interested to see, like, with those actions that we're taking, what does like either the paper trail or the action trail look like?
So that we can ask the questions. Yeah. So it's where we don't forget, oh yeah, we're supposed to be paid for their time and service and expertise. By the way, did we pay them? So if it's somewhere where it's back to. Go ahead.
So I think this is a discussion, and perhaps so as one of the committee meetings of the council, we did the service promise, your service promise. Part of that, one of the pillars of that promise is listening to everyone, and the idea that we make decisions together in Orono. Everyone who wants to be heard must have a fair chance to participate in a clearly articulated process that includes through together what that how we're citizen volunteers, just like the DEIB committee members are citizen volunteers, how the council can work with staff and say interested parties to model that behavior. What are the key components of it in terms of reporting? And it does need to be more, I think, than just a tracking document where an Excel spreadsheet we track who we talk to and when and what we provide them with information. At the same time, what's the right? Help us. Says we have a concern about this or that. How does the council hear that? And then how does the council provide I didn't. That's one of the things we don't have the bandwidth to track all the things and the follow-up, and then the next thing you know, it's 6 weeks later or 8 weeks later, and we've got other stuff, you know, that we have to, that we're dealing with. So it's kind of that establishing both that, modeling that, setting that. I've thought when we were devising the service promise, I thought this incident signage and the challenges we've had here was as good a reason as anything I've ever come across as to why a community needs to really make communication personal. Because that's the component. That's
broader. Any issue. And the word that comes back to me is the word guidance, or be guided by the input of those who Penobscot tribe recognizes as their people to deal with the town on this issue once we get down the road. Then we're going to be looking for that relationship to not just be input, but to be guiding input, so that the town would be guided by that input. It might be different than other things where you have a lot of different. Everyone says possible. So it might be that we're talking about a process that we're pointing to the accountability partners as those Penobscot leaders who are designated to have.
communicate perhaps, and how we communicate in terms of things to know.
I'm having a little bit of an issue hearing, and I think it might be that I think Michael might be typing while Dan is talking in a way that just isn't translating well over Zoom. Michael, would you try muting? Perfect. Let's see if that helps. Dan, do you want to try talking again?
Sure. I'm thinking about how, who we communicate with, how and when, in terms of what the follow-up steps are, what the next opportunities are for engagement and input. That kind of process. And I would think that this committee could be really helpful in helping us identify, who needs to know, what's the right format. Is it the members of the tribal council? Is it, post to a Facebook group that people follow that are important, those kinds of things, because you're not going to communicate with everybody. People only have so much bandwidth, but how do we, make our very best effort without buying Super Bowl ads, in terms of, limited, understanding that we have limited resources as well. How do we connect with the people that have standing among stakeholders, so there's awareness that the work is being done? And that's the challenge, and that's, there are people in neighborhoods who do that. We're working with the basin to develop a project around the Union Street boat launch for improvement. And Taylor Ashley on Union Street has stepped up, and he is our partner in this, making sure that all the neighbors are knowing about it. He's handing out flyers. He has an email list. So if anybody, to the extent that there's things that we need to share about our process, he's that stakeholder. He has standing in the community, and I think those are things that institutions, communities who want to, make stronger personal connections have to think about and identify in their communication strategies. Michael, you can start typing again.
I muted myself so that it wouldn't get in the way.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering if now might be a good time to kind of look at the draft tracking system that Michael has proposed to us, since that seems to be kind of related to the topic of.
I am ridiculously excited to share this.
Cool.
So I'm going to preface it by saying this compendium, which is what I'm calling it, is the compendium is created in a program called Notion. That's Notion. And this program allows me to basically format our documentation and provide it with the appropriate links and formatting. So let me get this guy set up. I know some of y'all had a chance to look at it, I hope. All right. Let's hope it'll let me share my screen. Yes, all right. All right. So, let me know if everybody can see what I got going.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Malcolm and
Yes,
okay, cool. All right, so here's what we got going on. So this essentially, this setup is looking at a gallery view, and each one of these kind of like pods has associated documentation with it. So essentially, some of this stuff is a bit more of a skeleton at the moment, just because I want to make sure that we're getting everybody's input. And I put notes here so that we could go over kind of what we got going on for everybody. And I hope to include in this section kind of like who we are and what our mission is. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just kind of copying and pasting from the town website. I wanted to make sure that if we had any tweaks or changes that we wanted to make, customizations, if you will, that we could do that. Um, Again, this will be a thing as well where I'm gonna get a short bio or things like that from everybody, and I'm gonna provide those into links. Essentially, when you click on somebody's name, it will bring you to that page, and there'll be notes there. Uh, and some of these things, which I'm very proud of, will be linked together. So essentially, as you can see here, there is meeting overviews. Right now, this one is actually partially filled out. So basically, this will be the overview for in which you can get things like video recordings, notes, agendas. So it'll be all of these things here that will be able to will actually link back. So for example, in the meetings minutes, there is a filled out document of the December meeting minutes that were provided, and you actually can access those from the meeting overviews. Essentially, you would be going into the December meeting and clicking the notes, and it would actually take you directly to that page. And so everything is interconnected. And it means that no matter where you are, if there's a link to it, it'll bring you back to the source page. Um, and I mostly intended for this to be the setup for kind of what we have going. Obviously, we can add additional categories if you guys would like. I wanted to kind of go over these. The formatting for for the video recordings will look like an embedded link of the video recording with the actual link down at the bottom. And this is actually embedded physically into the page. And you can also click on the link itself here, or watch on YouTube there to bring it out to the actual platform for YouTube, depending on the way people want to watch it. Um, the agendas will be inset PDFs, and I'm hoping to also include uh, like PNGs or image formatting so that people can just kind of get a quick glance at it. I haven't been able to snag one of those yet. I'm still working on how to do that. Um, but I intend to be able to document current projects that we're working on. So obviously things like um, the Black Literacy Night, um, currently working on the signage process. And when we feel like things are kind of properly off the docket, either tied up with a bow or however we feel, then it will get moved into the past projects, which will become sort of like an archival system for things that we've done and that we've been able to achieve, but are currently resolved, closed, or moved off the immediate docket. And this is something that would be able to be provided. Essentially, it would get shared, and this would be a document that we could link to on the town website. Essentially, it would open. This is the desktop app, but there is a website that it would just take you to for that. And I think that I'm really excited about this because I think that this document has so much potential, and the process of setting it up is actually fairly uncomplicated once the skeleton is there, which it pretty much all is. Any questions?
So I am just, I'm linking this in my brain to our, thinking back to our conversation about the sort of signage issue and, town council sort of asking us to help hold that piece of accountability for follow-up.
Yeah.
And so that would essentially live under current projects, like there is sort of a current project that the town council, in communication with this group, is undertaking to, communicate with, the Penobscot Nation about signage in town. And so there could be a doc within current projects that would be either a spreadsheet or a, like a Word document that kind of has the up-to-date,
Yeah,
like
so I can actually I
what's going on with that, and then that links to notes that would have more details potentially. Is that kind of how we're thinking
Yeah,
about
so I can
current
actually
projects as well?
provide I can actually make a timeline. So I can kind of show you here, like we can actually show a timeline of everything that's been done up to this date. And essentially I would be able to provide this document with live updates, and essentially anywhere the updates need to sit, it would be documented with the date that it's updated and the relevant key information for the updates. I think that the skeleton of the current projects really is just what are we working on, what are the updates, and then kind of being able to um, link to like any kind of backlogs or anything that we have that already exist. And if they're connected to any past projects, we would also link it there.
Cool. So all of that, like backstory about stuff related to the signage project, again, as our example
Yeah.
from years ago, the links to all those old meeting recordings could get pretty easily put into a timeline so that other people who haven't gone through the process this group have of looking at all that information could kind of easily go back through it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm curious what other people are thinking as you're digesting this.
We make an issue area, just bring it up a level so that it's its own little thumbnail on your desktop. So like Penobscot Nation could be an area, and then you poke into that, and there's the signage issue and the research on the current state. Just raising it up a level, because within current projects, that could just get so big and so. But I like this is a demo of the tool. I kind of like whatever we can see visually at a glance right off. And
Yeah, so the current projects, essentially the way it would work is they would be links to pages, and then the pages essentially they're nested within each other, and so everything would be it's very condensed. It's a bit like a tree, I suppose I would say, where like it has like a base and then it has branches that come off of it. But with essentially the way the formatting is it's everything is circular, so essentially you can virtually get to anything from anywhere within the compendium.
I think this is really cool. Thank you for putting this together. I'm excited to explore it a bit more. I didn't have a chance to look at it before our meeting. One of my questions, I love the idea of the timeline to be able to kind of link everything together rather than feeling like you're searching in a black hole of information and documents. I
Yeah, I
think
can
that can be a
actually pull
huge
that up
value.
so y'all can see. So
One
it
question
doesn't
I
have a
have is
data source.
who will have access to this? Like, will we be able to, I'm assuming the committee will have access, but will we
Yeah.
want to share it with the community members? Or will they have to request if they want to take a look at it, or will council members have access to it?
So basically, the way that this document works is it's similar to kind of the Google Docs system, if anybody's familiar with that. Essentially, where you can share it as just a document that people can view, just a document people can edit, just a document that people can comment on, and essentially, we would be providing the community with a document that they can just view, and then so it would be the community would able to just be poke around, but they would not be able to edit anything. I assume that I have full intention of providing the DEIB committee with permission to edit, and I think that for the council, obviously they can request to edit it if they'd like. I have absolutely no problem with that. It's more just like I would like to go over the formatting with them, or have them send me the documentation to input, because I think that if people are going to edit it, I do want to kind of brief them a little bit on the formatting so that everybody kind of understands like if you're not familiar with the program, then you may not like it may not seem as tidy as it looks.
So there might be an meeting law constraint to how many people are able to have edit access.
Okay.
Because like jointly editing a Google Doc can be construed as having a meeting, potentially. And so
Okay.
it might be, we might need to limit it to 1 or 2 people who are the
Okay.
designated updaters of this repository and kind of keep
Okay.
this record on behalf of the committee. But I think that it seems like a delightful way to organize things, and that's the
Yeah.
only kind of legal caveat that jumps to my mind.
Okay.
Chief Lowe
I
can jump
am
in if he knows anything else about that
Yeah,
as
I'm
well.
happy to train like 1 or 2 other people. Whatever the constraint is, I'm happy to train someone else on the formatting. And I think that ev the DEIB members currently only have permission to view it, just because I didn't want anybody to accidentally fidget with anything. Not that I don't trust y'all. It's more just like it's very easy to accidentally delete things. Uh, and rolling back the page 45 times is not in my best interest. Um, but yeah, I think that this is kind of an example of the timeline, and essentially you can move it around, and essentially, so here's December, and essentially you would be able to change it to show when something happened or when you expect it to end. So here it starts January 1st and ends January 10th. And then you can click on the actual card itself to input any information. And we can input stuff like status. And I can customize these so we can actually talk about the status and keep them updated, because they'll be basically different things. So like we would be
Switch
able to do
orders,
that.
started, in progress, or completed, help us with that task of tracking. So, and if we're gonna like use it tonight to demo, we could. Those items that we heard about that happened in December, one was, the council voted unanimously for a long form apology letter. That was completed, so that would be marked in whatever. Council considered the document called recommendations, that could be marked in progress. And, and. Oh,
And there's room to add other signifiers. So these status examples, I can make my own. So um, for consideration by council, I can make my own. So basically, if we are at a certain spot, I can make a custom status for them. So it's the program is very intuitive. There's a lot that we can do with it. Virtually everything is customizable, and so there's room for us to make our own systems or bend systems that are in place by templates. So there's quite a lot here. I think that do we think that I'm going to start with some feedback questions. Do you think that there is any categories that we should add additionally just on the so this is essentially the landing page when you open the compendium looks like this. Do we think we need any additional categories?
I'd love to nest a lot of these under one, which is background information, but free up space for more prominent current things that have their own prominence. So just a place to store stuff that we've done in the past is less of our charge, I feel, than, because that's more like, look, we did it, check it off the list. But the stuff that's live in front of us, that's what I'd love to see in this landing page.
Yeah,
Like,
these can also be reorganized. So for example, if we would like that here instead, obviously I can change the Roman numerals that exist right there. But essentially we can put that more at the forefront wherever we would like it to be. Also, I think I definitely agree with you. I think that nesting something like past projects would be good. My only reticence is I don't want to over nest because I worry about when, from my experience, after people have to go down a certain amount of pages, they do experience some kind of disinterest or it does feel a little less accessible. So I do want to avoid over nesting pages that can be a standalone.
so I don't, that's exactly how I feel, Michael, so I don't wanna nest too deeply the actual things that the Penobscot advice givers gave to us.
Yeah.
Like, I want that to be the thing that we see,
Or-
so we're to it.
Yeah, or other sort of ongoing projects. I think as I'm thinking about this, and I'm just seeing it for the first time tonight too, I didn't get a chance to look in advance. I'm kind of thinking that the three things that make sense on this landing page are about the DEIB committee, which could be like introduction, charge, and members of the committee, current projects, and then background info, which can be all of the meeting minutes and past projects, and sort of all these upper level heading.
Oh, you went mute, Sonia? Oh, I'm mute too.
Great, thank you. To me, that would that feels like the right level of nesting, but
Yeah, so okay, so
I'm curious how others think about that.
I think I agree. Kind of like one about the committee, one about projects,
Yep,
and then one about our meetings.
yeah.
That makes
Meetings
sense.
and background info, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
However, they're titled. I'm kind of thinking like past projects and current projects could go into just projects pin.
Yeah. Yeah, so the projects folder could have different folders within it that are for Black Literacy Night and Penobscot signage, and then past projects could have folders for stuff that's complete, and be a folder within that. Yeah.
okay, so my understanding is that we want to condense intro with so condense intros with members,
Yep.
what we're doing, and then do we want to so for past or not past project, prior knowledge or background knowledge, should we leave meeting overviews, or do we want to just condense all of this other than a projects tab into that?
Um, I think just having meeting overviews, because the meeting overviews then links to the recordings and the agendas and the minutes, right?
Yes, it does.
So
Yes.
let's just have the meeting overviews and then let the recordings, agendas, and minutes be nested underneath that.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. So then we'll have intro, we'll have a project tab, we'll have, and then we'll have meeting overview. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Some of the stuff I did want to go over. Do we have a way that we want to represent ourselves? Do we have a way that we um, specifically want to say who we are, or is there like pulling, or do we want to be pulling from the description on the website? What do you guys think is best there? Because I didn't want to have like a decent way for us to be like, this is us. Because I know that like we obviously have some um like we do have some descriptions on the town website.
Is this so? My question is this more public facing or more internal? Because
Public
if it's
facing.
public facing, then I think that we probably should have the same content that we have on the Town of Orono website.
Okay.
That those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Malcolm, what's your input on that?
Thinking how hard it is to design a website in real time. But main interest is that logbook function, and picked a really powerful tool. A lot of things we could actually go astray, maybe doing all the things and doing a whole website, especially by committee, which is hard to do. But so I'm a little bit overwhelmed, but I want to share your joy with all these cool features. And I think the ones that relate to the logbook function are the ones I'm most excited about. Let me say it that way.
Yeah, I think I agree with Malcolm that the parts of this that make sense to build out soonest, rather than worrying about like the sort of branding of how we introduce the DEIB committee. I think it's fine to put website text in there as a placeholder, and that could be reviewed at another time. But the logbook function of this feels really, to me, like the thing I'm most excited about too.
Yeah, absolutely. It was more just like I wanted to like that's what I wanted to do, and that's kind of what I intended to do. But obviously, considering we are a committee, I wanted to value the opinions of my fellow committee members in a way that felt like that even if it's a small thing that I'm doing that I'm just pulling from the website, I wanted to make sure that that was everybody was on the same page there. And that's kind of what the notes are for, is really just kind of um, getting a chance to just quickly check in with everybody on what we wanted to do. For the project tabs, we want timelines preferably, and do we want, one second, do we want like a way to, um, do we want a way to be linking back to things on the town website for various things here? I intended to provide resources to things like um, if a meeting of the town council is referenced, do we think it's good to like put a link to the council's recording?
Yeah, we heard tonight, like there was a timestamp, 1 hour, 11 minutes in from the December 19th town meeting. That's related to the in progress item of how the town council might treat the recommendations for process around signage. So if there was a link, great.
Awesome. I am taking notes on my little tiny notebook so that I can make adjustments.
Beautiful.
I want to
Thank you,
make sure
Michael,
that we're
for bringing this to us and for all of your strategizing and work on it.
yeah, this is actually one of my passions. I do website design and I am obsessed with Notion and use Notion for everything. So I think that it's a very cool program. I highly encourage people to take a look at it because it's great for school and stuff as well. I definitely think that what do you guys think about I think it's the agendas that are do you think that it's worth it to add just the PDF or to add an image as well? I know that's a small thing, but
I think just the PDF is fine.
okay.
Yeah, there isn't like an accessibility advantage to a still image over a PDF.
Yeah.
If there was a Word document available, that would actually be better for somebody who is using a screen reader as compared to a PDF. But I think that PDF is the format the town is using, and so
It is.
I think
This
that
is
it's
pulled
fine to just
directly
do
from
that.
the town
Yep.
website. So I unfortunately don't have I wouldn't even be able to like reproduce a document considering I don't have
Yeah.
the images and things like that that the town is using. So
Yeah. I think PDF feels good to me. Cool.
yeah. As much as I would like to accommodate folks, unless the town is able to provide me with that resource, I unfortunately can't do much. I think so. Basically, so we're looking to condense down, just kind of going over what we said. We're going to condense down um, the intro to DIB with members and kind of a who we are, and that'll be pulled from the same documentation or literature, whatever you want to call it, as the town has provided on their website. And then we will have a projects tab that will include current projects with timelines, relevant links, and documents, and updates on what's going on there. And we will have the projects tab will also include past projects, which will have uh, their own documents and things like that, such as timelines, timelines, documents, etc., etc. And then we will have the meeting overviews with their associated links for video recordings, agendas, and minutes. I think that is just about it for my lovely compendium. I do want to try and source some images for the compendium from either the town or something like that, because I do, these are just images pulled from the web, and I don't know what the legality of that is on a public facing document.
I think there are images that are fine to be used as long as people have given consent. I know we have some images from like Sunday's potluck that we asked people what their consent was to be photographed. So there will be, I think Dan actually has some photos from that event that could go up on a website, for example. And I'm sure that the other town staff have some great photos from things the town does that could be nice placeholders. But I think I'd maybe make that a like second tier project.
Oh, it is. Yeah, yeah. No, that's one of those things that like
It's a nice
is on the
beautification
back burner
next
for
level.
sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Forward, Mike, I think, the artistic way you go about things and also the organization. What are we, 9 months old as a group? I can't quite remember. this will really move us forward into what we can offer.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 9 exactly. This is,
Cool.
well, 10, I suppose. Since it's January. I think I'm just really excited overall to see how um, this document will kind of evolve and everything like that. And definitely, I want to make sure that um, whoever needs to be able to access this document, should I um, be somewhere else or doing something else, that you guys will be able to continue on. All right. That is it for the compendium. One of our last things on the agenda is, are there any updates on the main human rights document? I know there was some legalities that we were still sorting out there.
There still are. If this was
Still
if
legalities.
this was an ongoing project, we could track it as, wow, Sonia's kicked the can down, another month on it, and that is what it is. My apologies, but
Don't worry.
Chair Wingard is out this week with a sort of a health thing, I think. So we haven't been able to get our ducks in a row on that, and
That's okay, everybody.
going.
I'm sure folks will understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is our last subject to broach today.
Staff report opportunity.
Ah,
So
staff
if you
report,
go
yes.
is still there and wanted to offer a staff DEIB report, this is something that Lori had suggested would be a nice opportunity to facilitate communication and have as a standing item on the agenda. So,
Yes.
if there's anything, go for it, but don't feel obligated.
Oh. Yeah, so unfortunately, I was a little ill prepared. I don't have anything to report tonight. Lori and I had a brief conversation. She's attending to her husband who's had a knee replacement, so I'm not sticking my nose in business there, if that makes sense to you. So unfortunately, like I said, I don't have anything tonight. I can answer questions if you all have questions of me, but okay.
I don't have any questions, but I really appreciate you being here tonight.
Yes, you are very much appreciated.
Glad to do it.
All right. It is currently 7:09, and we are looking at our next meeting in February. Hopefully, we will be around for the lovely Valentine's Day holiday. Is there anyone in the audience or such on Zoom that would like to provide any comments? Not sure if there's anybody in.
We
I
don't
would
have any comments online. I did want to note our agenda PDFs and our PDFs created in-house for the town are built with accessibility in thought. So yeah, those would be good to
That's
folks.
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for making a note of that. Really
of
appreciate
course.
it.
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
I'd love to talk with you offline about your love of Notion and how it can be used to track, get things. I don't know if you can send me an email or I can get your contact information from you. Sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
So, can I jump in on Are we talking about agenda for next meeting? Is that later on the agenda or is that now currently?
That's now.
That's now. Okay, great. So looking at February 13th is, I believe, our next meeting, following our second Tuesday pattern. And there was already something that we had talked about earlier and said we should add that as an agenda item next time, but I don't remember what it was. Does anyone else remember?
It's checking in with Danielle on the Black
Right.
Literacy event
Right.
and seeing if there is any more brainstorming that
Uh-huh.
she has that she will bring to the table, and hopefully we'll get more brilliant ideas.
Yeah.
That's why I have my little notey notes.
Um, what else makes sense if, as we're pre-planning for next month's meeting? Does anyone else have agenda items? Well, we can leave that on and see what else emerges.
I definitely think that a council check-in for Penobscot apology letter
Mhm.
and possible check-in regarding the main HRC. If not, then we're fine to wait.
And the staff report as a standing item.
Yes.
Great. Is one of us present able to commit to facilitating that next meeting?
I think I can commit to February.
Thanks.
Yay. Can commit to just kind of a one-on-one check-in with each member of our committee to see if this date still works, the standing second Tuesday at 6.
Mm.
It's good to have, you know, we're not formal enough to have like quorum things, but it's good to have more rather than fewer.
Yeah, and certainly with the new semester starting, Carlos and anyone else who has academic, Danielle, I think might have academic schedule commitments, so it makes sense to revisit the meeting time.
I think there's plenty
Should we
of
add that to
room.
the agenda?
Yeah, for February.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So, Michael or Sonia, did you write down the agenda items somewhere that are accessible?
I believe. Yes. I believe.
Michael's been taking notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, the agenda items I have are the Black Literacy Night, the goodness, the main HRC, the signage update, and the staff report. Did I miss any? I don't think I did.
Hey, it's not exactly a listening session, but I want to highlight coming up. Shout out for the Queer Stories Tell the Truth. I don't know if Orono's done something like this before, like you know, a public panel and having some noteworthy people at the performing Tuesday, 20th of this month. Okay, that is. So I think it's fun, the more of us who could go. Build actions, important things.
I will have to take a look at the event and my own schedule, and I will probably pop in the email whether or not I can attend. But I hope so. Is there any more wisdom anyone would like to impart us with? All right. That's all, folks.
Oh,
Meeting adjourned.
thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you. Bye,
Good
everyone.
night.